evening, everybody. My name is Michali Friedman. I'm the director of Embrace Therapy, and I am really excited today to be taking over OK Clarity's Instagram to do this live on communication, intimacy, and conflict. There's so much to say about this topic, so I'm going to just dive in so that we have time for all the amazing questions that we got. Welcome everybody who's coming on right now. So just to kind of repeat very quickly, today's topic is communication, intimacy, and conflict. So yeah, a lot of stuff to talk about. So I'm going to do what I did last week when I talked about the love languages. I'm going to just give a very brief, very foundational introduction to these concepts, and then we're going to dive into the questions. If there's any extra time, then anyone who's joined here on this live tonight can feel free to add, their questions, submit their questions in the comments button. So, okay, so let's dive in. So communication, intimacy, and conflict are all big words that can really use some definition. And I think there's a reason why they were all lumped together in this topic. Communication basically means how we give and receive information. Okay, so animals communicate, people communicate, right? It's just a giving and receiving of information. Now, as people, we become more sophisticated in how we communicate. We communicate through nonverbal cues, like our posture, our facial expressions that are mostly in our brow bones and our mouths. We communicate with our words, and not just with our words. We also communicate with the tone, and also the speed. So all of that is involved in the process of giving and receiving information. Now, this is important because this impacts how we navigate the topics of intimacy and conflict. Intimacy means the sharing of myself, the deeper, more core, fundamental parts of myself with another person, and that person sharing those parts of themselves with me. True intimacy has mutuality. So I'm sharing parts of myself with you, and you're sharing parts of yourself with me. A lot of you, I'm sure, have heard this, definition of intimacy as like into me see. And it basically is involving this deeper knowing of someone else, and someone else knowing us deeper than any other person. We can have intimacy with so many people, including friends, family members, spouses, siblings, coworkers. We can have intimate moments, and the way that we communicate is what creates intimacy. It creates this extra layer, deeper layer of knowledge of the other person and of ourselves. And then the last topic is about conflict, and conflict means essentially that I want, need, or think something that is different than what you want, need, or think. And we need to come to some kind of resolution in order to move forward. It's fine if, let's say, I think the way I think, and that's different than you think, and we don't really need to do anything about it because we have nothing to do with each other. That's not going to create any conflict. But what creates the conflict isn't necessarily just the difference of opinion or thoughts or feelings or needs. It's also that pressing need to come to some kind of resolution because it impacts both of us in a specific way. Okay, and so the way that we navigate conflict is really heavily going to be based on communication. So all of these pieces, the conflict, the intimacy, the way we're giving and receiving information is all going to come down to verbal and nonverbal cues. And so here are some like general ideas and some general tips to get you started. And please feel free to ask clarifying questions because I know this is like super oversimplifying everything. So the way that, let's start with intimacy. The way that we want to start to build intimacy isn't just to go up to someone random and be like, hey, I'm going to go share these deeper parts of myself with you. Okay, I would consider that to be emotionally irresponsible because I don't know if that person is trustworthy. I don't know if that person's going to respect what I share. I don't know if I'm safe with that person. So we want to be selective with who we're going to be intimate with. Okay. And so the steps to determining if we can be intimate with another person, and when I'm saying the word intimate, I don't necessarily mean physical intimacy as much as I mean emotional intimacy, but the same really holds true for physical intimacy, is to get to know the other person to see if they are trustworthy. And that takes time to build. Get to know the person and see if they are respectful towards you and also respectful towards themselves. And of course, make sure that they are safe people. Once you determine all of those things, that's when you can start to share the deeper, more fundamental parts of yourself with that other person. So for example, if let's say you have a more superficial relationship with somebody and you haven't deemed them trustworthy and or respectful or safe just yet. So if they ask you, how was your day? Then you might say, it was really nice. Thank you for asking. How was your day? Right? And then everyone says, great, thanks for asking. And then that's kind of that. But if it's someone that you trust and you respect and they are respectful of you, then you might say something more real, right? Like, today was a really hard day. I was struggling a lot with body image, or today was a really amazing day. And I felt really proud of myself because I was working on something for many, many months, and I'm finally feeling like I'm getting it. And these are some of the deeper thought processes and feelings that I have on the matter. And I'm sharing that with you because I trust you. It's going to sound very different. Now, it doesn't have to be intense. Intimacy doesn't equal intensity. But the more intimate that you get, oftentimes the more intense feeling of knowing and being known with another person. Now, when we get to conflict, that is very tricky to navigate because you really want to be on top of not just your words, but also your tone, also your body language. Right. And I used to teach this to kids in school where I would go up to them and like basically yell at them and say, you are so pretty. Right. And I would just like yell in their faces and I would ask them, do you feel so good? Do you feel complimented? And they would all look at me horrified, like, absolutely not. And what's wrong with you, lady? Right. And I asked them, why is it that you don't feel complimented? And they said, because you were yelling. And I said, but my words were so nice. So why is that a problem? And he said, well, the yelling feels scary for us. And so the words don't matter. And I think that that's how we all take in information. We're going to likely more pay attention to the tone and the body language and the nonverbal cues, oftentimes even more than the words themselves. And that's how we kind of ascertain if there is safety and respect and trust in the relationship and the exchange, right? So oftentimes our gut, our bodies pick up on issues of trust and safety faster than our minds do because our minds take in the words and our bodies take in the nonverbal cues. The bodies are talking and the words are talking to the brain because that involves the brain. So everything kind of matches up. So what you want to pay attention to when you are navigating a conflict, when you are navigating a situation, again, that you have certain needs or wants or thoughts and they differ from somebody else and you need to come to some kind of resolution or consensus or plan, then you want to pay attention to what is my body picking up? What is my body feeling? What is their body communicating? And the best thing that we can do in those moments is to press pause if things are getting escalated and heated and put on the table what the bodies are experiencing and communicating. So I'll give you an example. If let's say, I'm going to give I'll say a couple example. Okay. So let's say you're the wife and your husband, and you and your husband are trying to figure out, let's say where you want to go on vacation. Okay. For many, many couples, this can be a very sore topic because a lot of fights can happen on vacation. And then can be a lot of history of fights that have happened. So everyone's stressed out about it. Okay. So already we're going into this conversation feeling all amped up. Thank you so much for your feedback, by the way. So we're going to this conversation all amped up already because of our history of having tense moments or maybe an entire vacation that's super tense in the past. So what we're going to do is we might want to stop and just pay attention to what our bodies are telling us. Is my jaw clenched? how am I sitting? Are my arms like this? Am I at the edge of my seat and like hyper vigilant, or am I sitting relaxed? What is my spouse doing? Are they making eye contact? Are they looking away? Am I having a hard time maintaining eye contact, or am I kind of just like looking everywhere and super anxious, right? You want to really pay attention to what these nonverbal cues are communicating to the both of you. And then you might say something like, "Whew, wow, we are both super tense when we're talking about vacations. Let's see what we can do to kind of calm ourselves down. Maybe let's put on some relaxing music while we have this conversation. Maybe let's dim the lights so that we can, have more vulnerability in the conversation. Maybe we can take a break and just do some deep breathing exercises together just to calm and regulate our nervous systems. Maybe we need to talk in a quieter voice because that tends to calm people down, right? So we want to start to relax our bodies and then enter the conversation from that place. Anytime either one of us notices that the body language is shifting to more escalated, hypervigilant, anxious types of behavior and communication, then that's a great time to press pause and then re-regulate ourselves. So that's like, I would say, the most important thing when you're navigating conflict. I would say that's like a pretty crucial piece. Obviously, there's so much more to say on the topic of conflict. I'm just gonna bring up one extra point, and then I'm gonna start to answer some of these questions. When it comes to navigating conflict, a lot of us think about like these really heated, escalated kinds of situations, right? Like if I say the word conflict to you guys right now, everyone's probably jumping to like fights that they've had, like blow up fights where they're fuming mad at the person they're having a conflict with. And conflict just simply means what I said before. It could be a very simple disagreement. And it's really how we navigate conflict that can make or break us, especially as a couple. I always tell the couples that I work with that conflict is such a blessing, because if you navigate conflict well, you walk out of that conversation feeling so loved, so seen, so connected. Talk about intimacy. That is true intimacy, when you can navigate conflict in a way where both people walk away feeling totally understood and on the same page, even in their differences. And so the way to do that is, again, we want to really regulate our nervous systems, and then we want to go into the conversation with an open mind, with the utmost respect and care for the other. And every person, the way that I do it, and this is based on a lot of different modalities like Gottman, emotionally focused therapy, even imago therapy. There's a lot of different modalities that have variations of this. But essentially what you want to do is everyone gets a turn to talk. And so one person's the speaker, one person's the listener. The speaker has specific rules in order to maintain a sense of safety in the conversation. So they speak from an I feel place, not a you always do this place. The speaker also sticks to one topic. And the key is to get as vulnerable as possible. So it's not just, I feel like I want to go to the pool on our vacation, right? It's, I'm scared that if I don't have pool time, then I'm going to have a hard time relaxing the rest of the time. And I'm going to be so distracted and not present. And we're not going to get to connect. And what I really, really want is to connect. And I don't trust myself that I'm not going to be able to relax in any other way other than if we just take half an hour to just stick our feet in the pool, right? So that sounds way more vulnerable than just, well, I want to be in the pool and I feel like we never get to go in the pool and you always get what you want and I never get what I want, right? Very, very different ways of communicating. So the speaker has their role, their rules. And then the listener, their one job is to listen to the emotions that are being expressed to them. So instead of paying attention to the specific details, the details almost don't matter. They want to jump on, like, what are the emotions that the speaker is sharing with me? What are the areas of vulnerability that the speaker is sharing with me? I'm hearing fear. I'm hearing an inability to relax and to feel connected. I'm hearing a lot of struggle. And so when the listener is listening to the speaker, those are the things that they're picking up on. Once the speaker stops talking, the listener, before they jump to their turn to talk, they're going to reflect back what they've heard the speaker say. They're not going to just reflect back the details that they heard. Oh, you want to be in a pool. They're going to reflect back the feelings that they heard. you are scared, you are worried, you are concerned, you really value connection and presence. And it sounds like you're worried and concerned that you're not going to be able to do that, right? That is going to be what creates a sense of intimacy when someone's really getting to the crux of what we're feeling. Once the listener reflects that back, the speaker has a chance to add or to tweak what they heard the person say. It helps when the listener does like a check-in kind of question, like, did I get that right? And then they swap, where the listener becomes the speaker becomes a listener. They do the exact same thing. And then from that place, now they both heard each other. They're both clear on the deeper stuff going on. And only then, you can't skip to the next step until you've done this first step. Only then can you go into problem solving mode and then come up with ideas that work for everybody. And here's a little tip. It's not a solution if one person is not happy. It's only a solution when both people feel good and secure and confident in getting their needs met. So that's a little like way of setting up how to navigate conflict. Obviously, there's so much more nuance. This is an oversimplification. And I would say you can try this at home. It's not dangerous to try this at home, but just keep in mind that if it doesn't work, chances are there's more to this process that you might want support with and more clarification with. Okay, so with that, let's jump in to the questions. Okay, question number 1. And by the way, the questions can be on any one of these topics: communication, intimacy, or conflict in any kind of relationship. So the first question, I'm just reading off the paper, is someone who I'm really close with, a few years older than me, just got engaged. I'm genuinely so happy for her. At the same time, I'm remembering all our amazing conversations and times we had together. And I kind of feel a little sad that her life is going to be different, so I won't have that same connection with her. I try to keep telling myself that she's still going to be there, but it's going to be different. Is it normal to feel like this? And what can I do to help myself just not be sad and realize that it's okay? I'm just crying and I don't know. I hope this is normal. Okay. So it sounds like, I'm just going to kind of connect this to this theme that we have today. It sounds like, first of all, I just want to validate. Yeah, your feelings are normal. There's something new that's happening that's changing the dynamic potentially. And this person is worried and scared that they're scared about these changes and the newness and the unknown. So the way that this ties into our conversation just now is that it sounds like that this was like a very intimate kind of friendship, right? Where there were these deep, amazing conversations and really quality times that they've spent together. And so it can feel very scary, especially considering that this person's entering a marriage, another intimate relationship. It can feel really scary when we're feeling the sense of scarcity that, oh, if you have that, then I'm not going to have what I need. So I think that that is very normal, because we all generally walk around with some sense of scarcity. It takes a lot of mind work and trying out different things to come from a place of abundance. And so I think that your feelings are completely normal. And I think it's okay to let yourself cry, and it's okay to let yourself be sad. And I don't know if you're feeling brave enough, but I think that if you have this wonderful, intimate relationship with this person, I think the best thing you can do is bring your feelings up to them. Obviously, in a loving, respectful, and excited way. You can say, honestly, I'm feeling just so scared and worried that we're going to lose our friendship. I'm so happy and excited for you that you found your person. And at the same time, I'm just so scared that our friendship is going to change, and I value our friendship so much. And I just wanted to share with you my feelings because I love you and I feel safe with you and I trust you. And then see what they say. I found that friendships last regardless of marital status when there's this ability to communicate and be real and with each other. The people that lose friendships and just drop their friends, that speaks not to a marital status issue, but more, or like a mismatch, and more to do with the person's general ways of handling different relationships. I know this may not be something that everyone agrees with, but I really do believe that. There are people who just like drop their friendships. That's not because they got married. It's because they might be overwhelmed with other things that are going on for them. And it could be that that they don't know how to navigate certain things. And it's not a reflection on you as the single person. It's a reflection on them and their inability to manage overwhelm and to manage change and then to communicate that. But I think if you are up for it, I would say try having the conversation from a very loving and vulnerable and excited and sad place and see what they say. Okay. Next question. Is there a good chance of someone having true, honest communication with their spouse if they grew up in horrific conditions and find relationships difficult? Ooh, that's a tough question. Absolutely yes. Yes, and yes. Communication is a skill. We all are born communicating, right? Like think about a newborn baby. What do when they need something? They scream their heads off, right? And everyone rushes over and it's like, oh my gosh, how do we get this baby to stop screaming, right? What does the baby need, right? And so we all are born knowing how to communicate. Now, we may want to communicate more effectively than a newborn, and those are skills. Just like a newborn grows into an infant, grows into a baby, and then a toddler, then a child, then a teen, then an adult, and they're learning these skills along the way. At any age, we can learn how to communicate and to create healthy, loving, safe relationships. I would say that if we grew up in a home where this was not modeled and taught and we didn't get that kind of guidance and coaching, then I think it would be really powerful to do some inner child work and also just to, in general, go to therapy to learn some of these skills. But absolutely, I think it's possible to have true and honest communication. And I've seen so many people do that. And it's inspiring and incredible. And I wish they all were like international speakers. So yeah. Okay. Next question. We've got a lot of questions. Okay. Next question. Any tips to help someone become aware that they are a people pleaser and help them to come out of the people pleasing behaviors? So for those of you who don't know what this term is, people pleasing basically means that we put other people's needs ahead of our own. So we're trying to please other people, and we sometimes will abandon ourselves and neglect ourselves. And there are so many reasons why we may be people pleasers. Some of it may be cultural, some of it might be religious. Like, I know in like some circles, people are taught like to be a vatran or vatranos, which means like to give in to the other, right? To put others before yourself. And some people had that emphasis in their childhoods, but they were not necessarily the idea of, let's say, chayecha kodmet, like your life comes before other people. That was not as emphasized. People were not necessarily taught how to balance those two things. We can also become people pleasers because of different types of dysfunction that exist in our childhood homes. So whether we grew up in like super critical homes, abusive homes, homes with an addict as a parent, there are different types of scenarios that make a person more prone to people pleasing. Emotional incest, there's like a lot of different dynamics, but basically the first step, the fact that this person is asking this question means that they are aware that they are a people pleaser. Now, there's a really great 12 steps group called CODA, Codependence Anonymous, and that is a fantastic group that can really be helpful in learning how to stop people pleasing. There are so many great books, like Codependent No More, like Melanie Beattie books. But essentially what you want to start to do is first, even like before you tell yourself to stop doing certain things, you want to start paying attention to what you want to actually do. So in order to do that, you want to identify what is it that you actually want from life, from people, from relationships. What feels good? What does not feel good? Start to understand yourself, get to know yourself, and get to know your own boundaries. What do you wish you can say no to that you may not feel like confident enough, or you may not have enough ego strength to say no to just yet, but you wish you can say no to? What are some things that make you uncomfortable that you find yourself stuck in, right? Start to identify your boundaries. And that's going to start to give you a sensitivity for when people violate those boundaries and try to get you to people please in some ways, right? Or put pressure on you or guilt you or whatever. I think then the next step, and this might be something that you can get most supported with through like a 12-step program, through different workbooks, and also in therapy. But I think the next step would be learning how to assertively say no, meaning how do we say no in a way that respects the other person's right to their own needs, while also respecting and maintaining our rights and and caring about our needs. There are so many amazing books like How to Say No Without Feeling Guilty. There's so much written on this. But that's going to be like the next skill set that you're going to want to develop and train yourself with. Like, how do I graciously say no? How do I graciously say yes to things? Okay. Next question. How to handle very overprotective parents who need to know my every move as a 22-year-old single girl. This is a toughie, because I think that 22, you're basically like not a newborn adult, but I would say like you're a toddler adult. Like you're pretty fresh as an adult. And it can be really, really hard when you're trying to create your sense of self and autonomy, and you're trying to differentiate from your parents, and your parents have not yet made that shift that you're actually now an adult. So I would think about, and like I would maybe almost journal and write down the specific, very concrete ways that you feel like they're being overprotective. Like, are they telling you what to eat? Are they telling you to put your coat on 100 times? Are they telling you to be careful 100 times? Are they telling you to take medicine, or like whatever it is? Like, are they telling you what to do in specific things that you don't want them to? So I would kind of make a list of those things, and then I don't know your parents, and so take this with a grain of salt, because if your parents are like not safe or not respectful, then I would say something different. But if your parents are generally respectful and safe, and they just are having a hard time letting go of their little girl, I would have a sit down conversation with them and bring your list with you and say, look, I love you so much, and I know that, I'm going to always be your daughter and your little girl. But as right now I'm 22 and I'm growing as an adult, and I need the space to explore what that means for myself. And I'm feeling a little stifled and restricted by, and then you list some of these things, by requests or reminders to buckle my seatbelt or to take medicine when I'm feeling well, right? And that you share it with them and you dialogue about it. Someone asked, how about an 18 or 19-year-old post-seminary girl? Same thing. I think also it's very cultural. So like if it's common in your culture for parents to be super, super involved, and you just don't like it, then I think that would also be something to acknowledge in the conversation. Again, if you have a safe and respectful and trusting relationship with your parents. Okay. Okay, we have time for like a couple more questions. How to handle watching the parents shower the grandkids with attention and love when I didn't receive it from the very same parents when I was a child. Whew, that is so painful. I just want to acknowledge that is so painful, because it's like you're watching the oxygen that you needed so badly be given to other people that you happen to love and you happen to be responsible for. And you're just like, but I need that oxygen too. And it doesn't matter how old we are. We can be 20, we can be 40, we can be 60, we can be 80, we can be 100. We always need our parents, and we always need their love, and we always need some of their attention. And so I think that in order to parent your children in the best way and to celebrate the love and attention that your parents are giving them, it's going to be really, really important that you mourn your own inner child. It's going to be really, really important that you grieve and you rage in a constructive and healthy way with a healthy outlet, what you lacked as a child. And I think that process is going to really enable you to feel more centered and balanced when your parents give these kinds of things to your children. I don't know your parents' journey, so I don't know if they've done a lot of work on themselves and they're able to show up in this way for your kids, or if they haven't and it's just a different relationship, so they're showing up differently. My sense is that it's the latter, because chances are if your parents have actually done the work and healed, then they would have started a conversation with you about the things that they regretted and how they've neglected you, and just take accountability and repair for that. But if they have gone on some kind of healing journey, then also you may want to have a conversation with them and dialogue about it. And that can provide a lot of healing. But if they haven't, then I would really work closely with a therapist to do a lot of inner child work, even regardless of whether you have a conversation with your parents, and really kind of plan for what you might want to say to your parents, but definitely doing some of that deeper work of mourning the child version of you and the neglect that they experienced. Okay. It seems like a lot of people can relate to the not being shomer negia when usually are. Can you address and delve into that topic more, please? There's that guilt feeling, fear of how to share with future spouse, as well as the non-regretting part of actually enjoying it. I like this question. I like how this person's like almost like owning the enjoyment part, and like also just, you know, from an IFS perspective, like acknowledging all the different parts that exist. I think that a lot of people can relate, I agree with you, to not being shomer negia, but I think that there's like this fear of talking about it because of that guilt, and because generally, you know, people are discouraged from doing it in the more yeshivish kind of world. I would have to, in order to like best address this, I would have to really get to know your background and your specific values and what you want. I think that anytime you're in a serious relationship with a potential future spouse, the way that you're going to share personal information that's very vulnerable, that leaves you very vulnerable, right? There's going to always be an element of risk. Any type of vulnerability invites risk. And the safest way of doing that is to ensure that the person is respectful and trustworthy before you actually share something that's going to be that vulnerable. So you want to kind of take it in baby steps and see what they do with that. And also to like kind of see, you know, how do they look at people's struggles and flaws, and do they have compassion for people's humanity, or do they lack that compassion? That's going to give you really great information for whether or not you should take that risk. Okay, I'm talking really quickly because I want to make sure I'm getting to all these questions. I'm answering one more question and then we do have to go for tonight. Last question is, hey, first of all, love your content. I have self-harmed in the past, and I'm scared when I get, I think it's a typo, that I won't be able to get married because I would have to tell my future husband about it and he would break it off. So I think that self-harm is something oftentimes that we do when we have some kind of trauma. It's not always, but oftentimes. And I think that self-harm is generally a symptom. I know a lot of people view it as a problem in and of itself, but I view it as a symptom of something much larger. And it's a coping strategy. So I think that the bigger conversation that you're going to want to have with your future husband is more about, what are you trying to cope with? What are you trying to solve for? Self-harm is a solution. Obviously not a safe solution and not a great solution, but it is a solution for navigating something that's much bigger, for navigating a very tough experience, reality. And so that's going to be something that that experience or that reality is something that you're going to want to share with your future husband, because that is a part of you. I don't think it's going to prevent you from getting married to your person. And I think that whoever loves you and wants to be in a relationship with you long term is going to have compassion for you rather than have any other negative feeling towards you. They might be scared, they might have concerns, they might have questions, they might have a hard time understanding, but there's going to be that compassion and care piece. And again, you want to only share this information with someone that you deem trustworthy and that they've demonstrated that they have compassion and they understand people's humanity. Okay, so these are actually, I think I answered all the questions on these sheets. But we're gonna end for today. Thank you to all of you for joining and for humoring me when I was talking very fast. And I will see you all on Monday when I do the OK Clarity Live with Faye. Have a good night.